As the weather cools down and the leaves start to change, I've been craving all things cozy and sweet. So today I'm making a few simple fall recipes that are fun to make with your kids and delicious enough to share with your whole family. I'm starting off with some sourdough baked apple fritters. My husband loves apple fritters, and so I wanted to do a little bit of a healthier take on these. I started off by mixing some of my wet ingredients, including the sourdough starter, the flour, and the butter and milk, and let that sit in my fridge overnight. And then the next morning I woke up, got this bowl out of the fridge, added in the apples, the spices, and the baking powder, among some other things, and got those baking in the oven. A lot of times the recipe and the traditional way to make apple fritters is that you fry them. I am scared of frying. Honestly, I don't like when oil pops out at me from the pan. And if you wanted to fry them in an oil that was, a little bit better for you, like a avocado oil or coconut, that can be quite expensive and it's just messy. So I liked the idea of baking these. They were still soft and moist, and the recipe has you brush on some glaze once they come out of the oven, and then you put them back in on broil, and this lets the icing kind of caramelize and bubble up, and you still get that flavor as if they had been fried, but they are just simply baked, and they are soft on the inside, they are flavorful, and that icing adds that just a little bit of sweetness that you need, because on their own they're not super sweet. And when you pull them out of the oven after you've broiled them, you just brush on just a little bit more frosting or icing, and it will, as it cools, it kind of dries and it gives you that little crispness, I guess, from the icing. I don't really know how to describe it, but they're very good. I made these and I took them with me to church and fed them to some middle and high schoolers, and they all really, really enjoyed them, and I even enjoyed them too. Next up, I'm making something that isn't going to probably be a traditional fall treat, but it has the spices in there that gives it a warmth and kind of is reminiscent of fall and Christmassy flavors. It's actually homemade cherry cola, and I started making this over the summer when I realized I wanted to stop buying so many poppy drinks. I do and really enjoy those, but they are quite expensive. And so I thought I needed to learn how to make my own syrup. And it's actually a lot easier than you think. And the base of it is coconut sugar. So it's refined sugar free. It's got some citrus peels in it. It's got cinnamon sticks, cardamom, and a few other of those really delicious warm spices. And then I add in my frozen cherries and let that kind of simmer for a little while. You strain out everything, and then you can store it in a airtight jar in your fridge. And when you are ready to make it, you just take a few tablespoons of that, pour it over ice, and then I like to use club soda, but you could also use sparkling water, whatever you have around. I think club soda just gives it a little bit more of that soda feel. And pour that over ice and enjoy your refined sugar free, aspartame free, natural flavor free, coloring free soda. It's not quite the same as if you're drinking real soda, but it definitely does the trick for me, at least enough to curb the craving when I have it. And it's nice because you can keep it in the fridge and it lasts for a really long time. Next up is something I'm making for my baby boy, but this is a great recipe to use when you have that inevitable little bit of pumpkin left over the fall season, whether you're making your pumpkin pies or pumpkin bread. I feel like you never end up using an entire can of pumpkin. I don't know why it's like that. It must just be because it has a high moisture content, so you really can't use that much in your baking recipe. But this is a great way to use it up. And even though these are for the baby, I have eaten them and they're really good. So you can definitely make these for the whole family, but they're baby-led, weaning friendly. They are just pumpkin pancakes. Very simple recipe. I like to use my tiny little, I think it's like a tiny little food processor, but it came with my immersion blender. You can definitely just do this in the regular blender, but you blend up eggs, oats, pumpkin, cinnamon, and I think a little baking powder. You put that on your pan. I like to use my cast iron skillet and just make sure I'm really generous with the oil and I let that heat up properly. And when you do that correctly on a seasoned pan, it is nonstick. You can actually see me pushing the pancakes around a little bit, trying to move them, and nothing's sticking at all. So that is why we love our cast iron pans around here. But these cook up very quickly. It doesn't make a huge batch, which I do like, because when you are feeding something to a baby, they don't end up eating much of anything, so you don't need like 20 pancakes. But if you wanted to double or triple this because you were making it for some older kids or the whole family, you definitely could, and they come together very quickly. I also like to cut them up into strips for my baby, because at his age, that is how he eats his food. And then I'll cut them up into strips, and then I will just stick them in the freezer and pull them out as I need. So they're a great thing to prep ahead of time. And it's fun because he also gets to enjoy the seasonal flavors that we all are. And these are definitely one of his favorite things. I wouldn't say he is a picky baby, but he definitely is enjoying these, and he's always letting me know that they're very good. So that always makes you feel like a really good cook. Now, I have a special guest in this video. It is my mom. My parents were visiting us, and she sent me this recipe for these ghost hand pies and wanted to make them. So we bought some puff pastry from the freezer section at the grocery store. Here she's just rolling out the excess after we had gone ahead and cut out the first set of ghosts. She did say that the more that you work it, the tougher it gets. So the first batch were good because we just unwrapped the pastry and cut it out. We didn't have to roll it, but then when we took the scraps and rolled them, they were a little tougher. So just keep that in mind. I somehow missed getting a shot of us cutting out the ghosts themselves, but to get the little ghost face, we actually took one of my piping tips that you would use for piping buttercream. We used the back of it, or we used the tip for its eyes, and then we used the back of it for its mouth, and that worked out very well. I will link below this ghost cutter we used if you would like to make these too. But this was a really quick and really cute idea. It'd be fun to make with kids because it doesn't really require much effort. For the filling, we did some pumpkin butter, apple butter, and peach jam. It was just things we had laying around the house, and we didn't even have to make, we didn't have to make the filling. I just pulled these out of the fridge, so I loved that. And you could do any flavor you wanted. If you had strawberry or blackberry jam or raspberry, all of those would be very good. Sometimes I make apple pie jam around this time of year. That would be great in these. And you simply just crimp the edges with a fork. The recipe recommended wetting the dough first. I didn't really think that was making much of a difference for me, so I didn't do that for all of them. But these baked up so nicely, and honestly, I had pretty low expectations for them. I'm not the biggest fan of pie in general, but I really liked these, and I thought that they were the perfect size so that it wasn't like a super rich dessert. Like if you could just eat one and enjoy that, or you could have a few if you wanted a little bit more of a hearty dessert, I guess. We just stuck these in the oven and then made up a very simple icing. And I think the recipe recommended dipping them in, but we had company over, so I didn't want to take the time to do that, so I just kind of drizzled it on top, and it was very, very good. I served it with ice cream and whipped cream, and everyone was huge fans. I couldn't decide. I think maybe I liked the pumpkin butter one best, but they all were really good and really cute, and it had us thinking how we could do different cookie cutters for different holidays. So I feel like we should definitely make a Christmas version of this. and it would be a really cute thing to just take to someone's house or serve if you were having a little dinner party. Well, I hope these fall recipes inspired you to make something fun this season. I hope you all have a wonderful week and weekend, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.